Alright everyone, I just want to point out a little bit of tech moronism that I'm seeing around. Being liberal is at the forefront of this because I think they've got 3 or 4 different admins and they can't quite agree on what they believe in. All they definitely believe in is FDR was a great guy despite being a total fucking bigot, throwing 100,000 people into prison without trial. That's okay though. We forgive him because he claimed to be a socialist. You know, he prolonged the Great Depression with his big government spending. By the way, the left 10 years ago knew that government really wasn't your savior. It was basically a neo-hippie movement up until Occupy. And then they sort of petered out, and then they sold out to neoliberalism, and they become like the new yuppies almost. And Obama's kind of like their Reagan, or kind of like their Bill Clinton 2.0, you know, minus maybe the rape. And they've sold out. The Democrats now, you wouldn't believe it. They've become the party of corporations. In the last election and, you know, in all of these special elections, who's taking the business money? It's the Democratic Party. It used to be the Republicans. Back when I fought against the Republicans, you know, in the Bush era because of Iraq and all this other bullshit, and the Democrats basically rolled over and played dead when Bush wanted to invade Saddam because, oh, my WMDs, who was it Ariel Sharon or Netanyahu or whoever the fuck was in charge over there at the time, was like, oh, yes, they have chemical weapons. You must help us. So we invaded, and of course we never really found any of those bioweapons, chemical weapons, nuclear precursors and stuff. Never really found any of them. We had speculation, and the speculation was wrong. Whoops, sorry, we killed 500,000 people and unleashed Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the world at large by destabilizing several nations. But, you know, it was a great time was had by all. You know, the next Vietnam, we're still in Afghanistan. It's become our longest war other than Korea, where technically we've been at war since the 50s. Most people say Afghanistan's our longest war. It's actually Korea. We're still at war with North Korea, technically speaking. There was never a peace treaty. It's just a ceasefire. And it's routinely broken, by the way. And constant fire across the board every couple years. So the Democrats have become the party of corporate cash. Like Hillary, I think she got $1 billion from big corporations. Trump's total was in the few tens of millions. Most of his support was grassroots or him funding his own campaign. Because he's rich. He was able to do that. He wrote himself various loans and grants of money from his own corporate entity. Technically, it's a corporate donation, but I mean, he wasn't screwing anyone else. It was his own fucking money, so he's allowed to do that. They've become the party of organized religion. Not necessarily spirituality, but like when people are fixated on, like, you know, Bill O'Reilly's war on Christmas bullshit. It's like, yeah, it is bullshit. And you know it's bullshit. But at the same time, which party is kissing the Pope's ass on a regular basis? The Democrats. The Democrats have begun to kiss the Pope's ass after spending years saying, though, we need to do more to, like, save kids from, like, Catholic, you know, priest abuse and stuff. Now they don't care about that issue. You know, it's still going on, but they never talk about it. Now they're too busy saying, oh, the Pope said something about building a bridge instead of a wall. That's so uplifting. It's wonderful. They're also the ones that kiss the ass of clerics over in the Middle East, who tell women your property, who say gays should be thrown off buildings, and it's disgraceful. And this is the Democratic Party today. They become the pro-war party. After spending years, you know, they vote for Iraq. Then a year later, they realize, whoops, mission not accomplished. Bush is actually dumb. He can't get this done. Oh, shit, we voted for the wrong war. You know, we should have waited till the next one. They said, oh, we're anti-war Democrats now. We need to get rid of these Republicans because we need to get out of Iraq and we need to get out of Afghanistan and blah, blah, blah. Obama gets in and says, well, I'm going to withdraw from these various theaters and close Gitmo and I'm going to resist censorship and all this stuff. We're going to have, you know, human rights, no more police states. It's going to be great reform. He does none of this and doubles down on the shit. NSA revelations come out, show, hey, Obama's actually spying on you all. He probably knew about it. If he wasn't, he's totally inept and probably more inept than Bush. And these Democrats say, well, that's okay, because the president's a Democrat. Now all of a sudden they're worried about it again. The debt. The Democrats have become the party of not caring about the debt. Now, of course, Trump's in office now, so I expect that part might shift. In all honesty, you're probably going to get to see over the next year or two, the Democrats will say, oh, the deficit is up, the debt is rising because, right now we're taxing people less. And then Trump will say, oh, you want to cut some programs? And then they'll plant their feet and they'll become pro-debt again. And they'll say, no, we can't cut a single penny. We need every bit of spending we've got because the government's so virtuous. Every other government throughout time gets bigger and more bloated and more corrupt. But this time it won't be a problem because, we've got the Democratic Party to save us. Wonderful. Yeah, like Obama saved us. they become the pro-war party. Look at Obama's foreign policy. What did he do? We're going to overthrow the government of Egypt. Oh, thank you, Muslim Brotherhood. What a great job. We're going to overthrow Gaddafi in Libya. We're going to try to overthrow Assad in Syria. We're going to double down on beating on the Iraqis. We're then we're going to abandon them after we've crippled their infrastructure again. We'll cripple their infrastructure. Then we'll move back out so that ISIS, can take Mosul and all of these other places. Fucking around with Turkey. Starting a new Cold War after telling Romney he was a moron for wanting to. That's the Obama foreign policy. Clinton doubled down on these same things. Assad has crossed a red line. He came, we saw, he died, ha 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 ha, and then she does her witch cackle about Libya and how great it was that Gaddafi got tortured before he died. She was absolutely loving that one. She probably watched that death footage just like the Saddam hanging was like, Bush beat-off material. Now they're telling us, and this is the point of the video, now they're telling us that they miss George W. Bush. Being Liberal literally posted earlier today. I'm not going to link it because I don't want anyone to go to their freakish page. You'd probably vomit if you have any common sense. They are such warmongering, genocidal hypocrites at this point that they actually miss George W. Bush. Why don't you tell that to people displaced by Katrina? Why don't you tell it to immigrants from the Middle East? Why don't you tell it to everyone who was basically raised laughing at Bushisms? Why don't you try to tell me that I'm supposed to take that claim seriously? Oh, you missed George W. Bush. We never missed you before, George. Throughout the Obama era, things were so wonderful. Obama continued all your policies. People just didn't realize it because you had a D after your name that made them magically blind. And then the Republicans, of course, started opposing some of the Bush-era policies. Now they've abandoned him completely. Like, they've disowned the Bushes. It's become Trump's party. You actually expect me to think that Trump saying something mildly offensive or making a slight verbal error or, using orange bronzer on his face, that's like impeachable and horrible to the point at which it's like so much worse than George W. killing 500,000 people, fucking up our economy for a decade, creating bubbles and popping them and being just generally a moron. He was inept. People back then were worried about a nuclear war. Anyone worried about a nuclear war right now, just blame the Democrats. They're the ones that want to dickwag after the Russians. They're the ones that are saying we shouldn't conduct diplomacy with the Eastern world and trying to restart the spy versus spy, KGB versus FBI sort of days of the middle atomic era. They're the ones, but I'm not surprised being liberal would like that idea. When I see the two people that they idolize most are FDR and JFK. Okay, let's take a good look at a more objective reading of these people. FDR created the modern military-industrial permanent war footing apparatus that we have to suffer through today. He was also a desperate bigot who threw people into concentration camps based on their ethnicity. Oh, you're a Jap. We got to throw you in this camp without trial. Whoops, we violated the Constitution. Decades later, they send him an apology and a bouquet and some money. FDR was a total bigot. So there's their main idol, their literal standard bearer. Their secondary idol's JFK. Ooh, that dude almost caused World War III. I like JFK on a charismatic level. Think he cared about the country, but he had some loopy ideas. Like, oh, sorry about that whole Bay of Pigs thing. It might have been a bad idea. Sorry that I almost caused World War III and that a Russian sub-commander managed to stave it off because technically, because we were depth charging his sub at the time, he was supposed to fire nuclear torpedoes. It would have caused the end of the world at the time. We would not be here right now. We'd be in the Stone Age if he had had his way. If people had followed his commands, and it hadn't been for one lowly Russian, he wasn't even the command. I think he was fleet commander, but not sub-commander, or the inverse, or something like that. He saved the fucking world. Saved hundreds of millions of people's lives. And he was a commie. Just think about that. Think about that for a minute. Now all of a sudden, the Democrats hate Russia because they're not communists anymore. That's the running joke. Yeah, understood. They've also become the bigot party. Not just FDR worship or JFK's womanizing. They're even thinking about the idea now. They had a post the other day, being liberal day. This is even funnier. They had a post about how they should hold court with the pro-life movement. Maybe we should have blue pro-lifers, and we should be more gentle and understanding towards their religious beliefs. So in other words, you're the corporate party, the war party, you hate white people, so you're the bigot party now, and you're beginning to hate Jews and light-skinned Asians too. I don't think you understand what you're doing. But you know, God bless you for having an idea of strategy. It's just a shitty one. Your strategy is to soil yourself repeatedly. Like, I barely even recognize the Democratic Party of maybe the Clintonian era. They were already neoliberals then, but there was some common sense. You look back at an Obama Senate speech about immigration, it sounds like Trump. You've become the globalist party after spending a decade fighting it. You love the Bush family, which is hilarious. You love John McCain, oddly. You don't love Graham anymore because now he's Trump's friend again. He's you know, a goofy guy. He switches his mind constantly. He also switches his gender, I think, on a regular basis. Or something. I'm not sure what he's in. I don't fucking care. I don't believe in moralism. You're definitely the moralist party. You're the ones who say, well, we need more cyberbullying rules, and you can't troll, you can't be satirical. We gotta be more like Angela Merkel. So in other words, you're the exact inverse of what you were back when the Democratic Party had some fucking balls. So in other words, you're the Bush Republicans now. The parties have flipped. Yeah, we've got an inversion going on. The paradigm that I spoke of, that was already beginning, really a bit before the election even began, has now completed. You're becoming the bigot party. Now you're even thinking about abandoning a woman's right to choose based on the idea of whining and dining like middle-class, semi-religious business Democrats. What a great idea. You know, you could actually just tell them, hey, we don't hate you for your race and we don't want to tax you more, but in your infinite wisdom you thought, no, fuck that. That's a terrible strategy. We'll just tell them we're going to ban abortion. That's going to be our new operative strategy. Let's become modern-day crusaders. I don't know what you're doing. Go kiss the Pope's ass some more and see if he'll pray for you, because trust, Trump is right about more than the legacy media. Yeah, they need a little bit of prayer. Doesn't have to be Christian, you know, it can be pagan or Islamic, sing a nasheed or whatever. No, I think the Democratic Party really needs to redeem itself. You've fallen way short of your goal of being the so-called good guys. You've relapsed into being totally fucking evil and chaotic. And not in a funny, like a supervillain way, like, you know, oh, he bungled trying to be evil, it was kind of cute. No, more a genocidal, like, are they going to press the little red button if they get into office thing? I don't worry about Trump starting a war. I worry about the Democrats starting a war. At this point, I don't worry about the Republicans doing that, because I see Trump is interested in diplomacy with the only, you know, nation capable of actually wiping us off the map. I see you saying that that's a bad thing. We should sanction them, we should embargo them, we should bully them and antagonize them on a regular basis. We should have invaded Syria when we had the chance. You know, you were all gung-ho for the idea of bombing Assad. That was a Democratic plan. Obama was the one that originated that, along with his good friend over there, the so-called conservative Prime Minister of the UK who got shot down by his House of Commons. Just like when Obama realized 70% of the US public opposed his idea, he said, then he backs off. See, if it had been popular, he would have done it on his own. But when he realized it wasn't, he said, oh, well, Congress will have to okay it. And I will not be imperialistic here. I'll listen to Congress. What a cop-out. Everybody knew exactly what you meant. If it had said 51% of people like the idea of bombing this person that you've been talking about deploying like nerve gas on little kids for a year, you would have done it unilaterally. You wouldn't have asked Congress. Don't fucking lie to me, Obama. Everybody knows that that's the case, because otherwise you would have come out immediately before the polling and said, hey, I like the idea, but I'm going to defer to Congress on this one. But you waited for the poll to come out. I wonder why. So now the Democrats miss George W. Bush. You miss a man who caused the death of 500,000 Iraqis, oops, sorry, set the stage for literally all of the foreign policy problems we have today, even the souring of relations with Russia. That was over the Georgian thing, I think it was 2006, that was pre-Obama. There was already a chill in the air by then. Yeah, the end of the Cold War was very brief. We had a thawing, and now it's winter again. And it's winter because of democratic policies and foreign policies. It's not winter because of Trump. He's trying to repair that relationship. And then begrudgingly comes out and insults Putin, and then you still think he's like Putin's puppet. No, if there's a master-servant relationship, we're the master, not the servant. On that you can definitely rely, because after a year, if that weren't the case, the FBI or DOJ would have thrown Trump up against a wall for treason. And they haven't done that. That's because Mueller's full of crap. You're so fixated on Trump, he's so evil because he said something offensive by our modern standards, that you're willing to risk genocide and even World War III. And you're adulating someone who was so totally inept and so beyond redemption. He is literally the shittiest president of the modern era. And you think that Trump is worse. He's barely been in office for a year. So far, his main legacy is, hey, I reformed the tax system. I reformed the tax system and got obstructed by Congress, even while Congress was controlled by my own party. That's essentially his legacy so far. That's about all. Peace out.